Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Twitch chat, and welcome back to Let Us Play. I'm your host, Father Evan. It's good to be back with y'all today. Hope everyone's having a good day. We're going to be chilling with some more Minecraft today, just continuing working on this basilica. I think we're going to work on the towers, but why don't we jump in? I'll show you what I was able to work on. Will this build be steezy? Uh-oh, I don't know what steezy is. Is this new hip lingo that the kids use? Hi, Gail. You're confusing me. I'm scared now. Anyway, yeah, so we've been working on this. No, it is not new. Then I'm extra worried. So we've been working on this. And last time we built these apses, and one thing I want to do is kind of straighten things out inside. But I built the altar space for this area. Decided to put the ambo in front, be a little different, but kind of it invites a sense of being able to be tied more directly to the choir stalls. And I finished this exterior wall, so all the exterior walls, except for the facade and the towers, but the main walls, are done! Which is pretty cool. But I want to do a little something here, where this is. I don't like how it terminates in a wall on that side. I don't mind it on the inside with how it looks, although I do need to... Quick chat, look the other way. Needs to go, right? No? One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. What is different about these two sides? Is it just that? No. I saw that. You saw nothing. Oop. Whoops. Whoops. There we go. Now it's correctly symmetrical. Bounce, 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 bounce. So what I wanted to do with that wall out there, also I got some more smooth sandstone, is I want to take... I need a lot of these anyway. I want to use some stairs to create like a slope where it meshes. I also did some landscaping around the... this side I sealed up a hole, and on the other side I sealed up a very large hole, and then finished out the landscaping, terraforming around the columns. I remember doing that as well. Progress is moving along. So I wasn't thinking anything crazy. I was honestly just kind of thinking... something kind of like that, except well, I may as well show you the terraforming. I need to terraform this gap right here, so it's a little more smooth at the back, but It's not a huge priority because it's not something to fall in. Unlike that hole, need to fill that hole in. I don't want to be jumping around. But yeah, so I brought this out and then just made this nice little hill right here. Nothing major, but... This was part of where the big hole was that I sealed up. It all adds to the aesthetics. Well, usually that word has an A, but I know what you mean. Aesthetics. Dyslexics of the world, untie! Indeed. So kind of something like that. And it's a small detail. But I kind of like how it brings the apps kind of to completion on the other side. And it's only really going to be visible from, like, little areas like here. But you know what? I enjoy those little details. So, Gale, did you and Bad Roxy get the custard yesterday? But I'm confused now. Too tall. Okay, no, that is fine. That's fine. No, we weren't able to go until right before they closed. And my wife is a better person than I am. I mean, your wife was trying to convince you to get it. Maybe over the weekend, then. It was like 8:55 and they closed at 9. That means they're still open. Okay, if she's being a better person about that, then yes, please listen to her. She's worked in the service industry. So have I! Then why aren't you going, yeah, I shouldn't bother them. God, I follow you on Twitter because I didn't realize what time I was on Twitch. Yeah, Twitch is having an episode with its updates. It's being itself, but good to see you. They're at least making a wage rather than relying on tips. True. I used to also have notifications on my Discord, but then those were tied to my Twitter, and Twitter was like, nah, if you're gonna do that, you gotta pay for an account. And I said, okay, if that's your choice, then I'm not gonna bother. Right, here log today, have a meeting at 3. Well, I hope it's a good meeting, but it's good to have you nonetheless. Going in for something simple like custard is okay before closing. You want to show up and order a whole meal? I mean, yeah, but if, like, custard is their main thing, well, you know, maybe they've already started taking the machine apart to clean it for the night. Yeah, that's the real reason why whenever you go to McDonald's and they're like, oh, the ice cream machine isn't working. It's because it self-cleans like every 3 or 4 hours. And so it actually will liquefy all of the ice cream in it as it heats up to clean itself. What's left in transitioning things will be good info. I don't know how smooth the convos will be. Oof. Well, prayers for open ears and hearts that what needs to be said is said and what needs to be heard is heard. So I've decided I think it's time for my computer to be upgraded. It is a good workhorse, but I bought the CPU in 2015, so it's almost a decade old, and it was already... It wasn't like a bad one by any means, but it was definitely a budget option. And so it's kind of on the tail end of the AM3 Plus socket lifespan, which meant further upgrading and replacing the motherboard, which I did eventually do, was difficult. In unrelated news, I'm getting a mysterious package on Friday. It's coming from you, Dad. I didn't order anything. Well, there you go. It's going to be a good package, I promise. But yeah, I'm thinking of kind of re-future-proofing in some way, like paying a decent price, you know, to get a fairly top-of-the-line CPU, not necessarily like the best in the world, but something that I know will be able to last for a good long while and be upgradable and on the market for a while. So, hey, Greyhaired Lord. It's a box of Mormon missionaries. It's coming from a city I've never heard of and don't know anyone in. Yeah, if you look at the return address, technically it will say it's coming from New York. But anyway, congrats on your, oh, it's the pop-up missionaries I ordered. Well, there you go. No, enjoy your Nana Care package. It was missionaries, there would be 2 of them. They travel in pairs. Why would you travel in pairs? Traveling in apples is really much more in style. I prefer travel in oranges, but thank you very much. If it was Cinderella, she travels in a pumpkin! Are you saying she's a country pumpkin? I've listened to Smashing Pumpkins. There's a very squishy noise. But potentially, with an upgraded PC, I could do ray tracing in Minecraft. Because that's a thing that exists. Let your voices be heard. Democratically, optimum fruit for traveling. Okay, but can I buy extra votes? I can't buy extra votes. That's not democratic. Wait. Now I just want a fig, though. Figs are good. Pick one right off the branch. Mmm, wasp juice. Hey Mel, Minecraft. I take it you were excited. I am. Hey, Gale, you have redeemed first. Something, something low, crown, something, something. Let's take all of those. Gonna make a few more of those. Sleepy something, Melanie, brain slow. That's fair. Hey, K-Max. Good to see ya. Doing just fine. Just continuing working on the church. I think let's build a tower over here, because I haven't yet. And pineapple and honeydew, so it stays good while traveling, unless you mean to eat it. Emergency rations while traveling. Eating your own vehicle. Need to shift those. No! Sheep, if you stay in here, if you do not find your way out of the church, you can find yourself baptized. I forgot the peach for traveling! No, peaches are good as home hardware. You use as a hammer because they're so hard. Oh look, a sacrifice for the Lord! Well, the angel did say he was going to provide. I didn't think it would be that easy. There are also boats. I've seen that movie. It is quite large. But I think it would be fun to look at this in ray tracing once all the windows are up. Just with all the colors. Interior's looking a bit dark. It's night! Plus it's Minecraft shading. If there is light above, if there's an open hole, then it will be brilliantly lit. Otherwise, it's pretty dark. What are we building today? Towers. I forgot scaffolding. So I'm going to need scaffolding to get back onto the tower. Yeah, and if it's night, it's too dark. Because that's when monsters spawn. Well, happy feast of St. Augustine, everyone. I think Augustine is a really cool saint, for the record. And I do think a lot of his theology is really important. I do think we may not fully understand his theology. And I say that not in any way of like saying we can't use it, but like it represents a very interesting space theologically where he is getting so much right without declarations of councils yet on the nature of God. And so I think there's something more there than we can sometimes immediately realize. So it has to be read semi-mystically. But also, I think there's a great way to read Augustine psychologically based on his life, and that how much of his theology is him reacting against earlier parts of his life that he didn't like, such as his involvement with the Manichaeans, which, yeah, they're kind of an out there group, and I don't think you can be a Christian and a Manichaean, but how much was he sort of wrestling with guilt over that? So, building tower stream, when did you get into Fortnite? Fortnite. Ugh. No one builds in Fortnite anymore. They introduced no build mode and everyone was like, finally. But hey, Tolkien has 2 towers. I have 9 towers. I thought I put scaffolding in here. Did I not? You may have also noticed on the wall over here that the lower 2 squares for the stained glass, like that one there, has an extra corner added in. That's because that's right where the confessional is, and if I built it, if I put a pane in there, it would connect to the wall behind it. It wouldn't look as good. So I just decided to build a wall to cover it up. We're going to talk about the towers of esoteric Elder Scrolls lore, the metaphysical anchors that hold the material universe together. Oh. I know, like, nothing about actual Elder Scrolls lore, having played 3 of the games. Yeah. I'm just all about that Fus Ro Dah and... Now, Anselm the monk, whom you may remember, maybe he knows something, but you know what? He might just be lost to time. I know it's on this 2-wide plane. Okay, so it's that one square of wood, and on top of that goes the cut sandstone. Elder Scrolls gets weirder, and some of the fans read way too much into it. Fans reading way too much into lore. Something has happened that has not happened since time immemorial. Couldn't be me. Mm-hmm. I want to double check. The fig has been announced the best fruit for traveling. You have heard it here first, chat. It's the year of the fig. In Mass, we bow at the name of Jesus and Mary. Why not Joseph? Was Joseph conceived immaculately? And I missed it? But yeah, it's basically that, you know, the Theotokos, Mary, Mother of God, and, like, Joseph is an important saint, don't get me wrong, but he is a perfectly normal human being like everyone else. Then who stole the cookies from the cookie jar? Okay, now I can... You're the first priest I've made who knew the answer. That was my assumption, but I wasn't positive. I mean, it's not like I positively know that as, like, the reason, but it's just... that's what makes sense, you know. We don't doff our caps at the name of every saint. Okay, these towers here and on the other transept are going to be rotated relative 90 degrees to these, so that they're what is facing outward and inward all points the same way, if that makes sense. So, like, if I wanted to line it up, then this one would have the gap in the center, but it's not. The gap is in the center on that side because that's looking forward and back. That was your assumption, just no one has confirmed. Yeah, I mean, that's... Yeah, and I cannot confirm it in the sense of, like, well, here's the document from the Vatican on such a topic. But, you know, just using theological reasoning, it's like, yeah. That's what I'd say. What were the inspirations for this cathedral design? Well, it's not a cathedral, it's a basilica. I'm very intentional about that. I didn't build a cathedra. But it is based on a sort of a combination of Sagrada Familia, particularly for the towers, and the overall sandstone palette. The cruciform pattern is just a very classic design. The dome and the baldacchino are very St. Peter's, and the flying buttresses are very Notre Dame. This big church, then. Fair. So if I want... So I need... Brain, please. You can figure this out. Okay, so the outer slim columns facing that direction are on the down. Okay, yes. Okay. If there was a monastic community called Castello, it'd be the Abbot of Castello. It's a bad one. Also, the Sagrada Familia inspiration comes to the stained glass windows and their bright colors. Sometimes I make jokes that make people want to hit me. That's how you know you're doing it right. That's all that means. That feels like something an order dedicated to St. Lawrence would do. You're not wrong. Flip me over, boys. I'm done on this side. If I had to decide between only lit and bay, I would say lit, because liturgies would occur in this basilica. That's a good answer. I suppose I should have also said, can it be fam? Just bring back all the the internet slang of the 2010s. Because I don't think I'm ready to be looks maxing for my brat summer with my Ohio skibbity riz. Yes, those are all words. Are they, though? Are they? I have no idea what you just said. Neither do I. I know how to make the sounds, but I don't know what most of it means. I'm getting old. Oh, it's Brat Summer, not Bratwurst Summer. I mean, every summer is Bratwurst Summer. Skibbity, meaningless interjection. That's not entirely true. Skibbity, in fact, also means other things. I just don't know what they mean. Oh, I do love that Ohio be like that. I mean, Ohio is like that. Ohio knows what it did. The culture is leaving me and I don't know what to do. Oh, are you saying the meaning of skibbity is sus, Step Zero? Is that what you're saying? It's sus? I heard a teen use Sigma on the Gen Z Alpha Way unironically at the store last week, and it was so awkward. Good skibbity rizlet. Well, a good skibbity rizlet to you too, my good sir. You have kids, you're supposed to know what these things mean. That way you can embarrass them. It don't have to be like that, but it do. Something like expensive. So $30. That's so Sigma. What? I feel like I'm having a stroke reading that. I fought very hard to make sure my son is not Gen Alpha brain rot. Well, unfortunately, he is Gen Alpha, so the brain rot is really inevitable. I mean, we millennials have had our own brain rot. Trogdor was a man. I mean, he was a dragon. He was Dragon Man. But he was Trogdor! Can you make copper mesh windows? I think that would look good in confessional instead of iron bars. No, copper doesn't do that, I think. It's only iron can do bars, I think. Unless someone else knows of another, I claim Cusper and will not convince me otherwise. The fun thing when I was in campus ministry was all the students were Gen Z. Like, objectively, they were all born after the cutoff of 96 that sociologists recognize. And they'd be like, I'm not Gen Z, I'm a millennial. And it's like, sorry, honey. You are so Gen Z. My spoon's too big. How do you type with boxing gloves on? I forget how he responds to that. Because that's, well, that is millennial brain rot. It does not live rent-free in my mind. I'm technically Gen Z, but I'm close to the cutoff and grew up in a lot of millennial staples. That's fair. And admittedly, the difference between generations is much more fluid than a hard line, especially with, like, the internet and, like, what that means. But still, it was so funny to me for students being like, no, I don't want to be part of the Gen Z brain rot. I want to be a millennial. It's like, that's too bad. Oh God. At some point, I got to review, because I helped my dad with game reviews on a website. And so we got a review copy of Strong Bad's Totally Awesome Game for Cool People. I will not take it to the limit. I'm going to take it to that weird whale ordering booth they have in the field. Sever your leg. I'm sorry, did you just tell me to sever my leg? Ow. Yeah, having an older sibling in another generation can also really mess with your identification. Sociology is fun and weird. You're a millennial if you can remember 9/11. Does that mean that every generation is secretly millennials now? No, Gen Xers did not have JFK? That happened, correct me if I'm wrong, that happened in 1964? Am I off? I am off. Is it me who's wrong, or is it the children? No, it must be the children. And not even all boomers had that, because generally baby boomers cut off in like 1964. Your parents didn't tell you about it for years. I mean, that's fair. It's a hard thing to explain to a small child. Okay, so now that that's done, I can... Ah, wrong. Almost. It was 1963. That's right. I knew it was early 1960s. Right, because the MC Lars song is in 1963. I'd make JFK's Day. I'd go back to Dallas and say, wear this helmet, okay? How is Gen X defined? Having to live through the 80s as teenagers. That's suffering enough. Ah! It's a good thing I have good armor. As a high school freshman, I was ready at school for drill practice, then using classroom to change into regular clothes, and the news is on, but Spanish, because senior girls had Spanish tests that day. Oof. I was in the back seat of my dad's car on the way to school. And we didn't hear the news clearly at first because we went under an overpass, if I can speak correctly. But also time differences, you know. We watched 9/11. They would not let us watch it. Like, we watched it before school in honestly utter horror. But then, like, we were like, hey, teacher, can we just go watch the news all day? And she's like, no, we have lesson plans. It's like, yes, ma'am. Here's just public school. I was late for school that day and happened to be watching the news. Ooh, there you go. I went in to feed the fish at the library in school, and they had the TV on, showing smoking buildings. At the time, my mom was librarian and told me to get out and wait in line for class. You were in preschool, and my parents never told you anything until mid-elementary school. My geography teacher said, they told us to keep the TVs off, the school is on lockdown, but I refuse to let you miss out on history. That's fair, and I feel like especially in high school, the argument could be made a little bit differently, but I was in 5th grade, so... You were homeschooled. That's wild. Experiencing that via homeschooling. I was in Denver. I don't remember a lockdown or going home, but being in San Antonio, I could see a lockdown. Yeah, we didn't. My school did not certainly do a lockdown, but I could see other schools. Semi-military shit. Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, military bases would make you do that. Which gets weirder because I grew up near a military base, and maybe they did, I just don't remember. Maybe they just didn't tell us. Okay, I need to come over here and look at this. Okay, so from... this... because that's the top. Okay, so now we put the row of steps on top. Okay. And I don't have any steps, so it's good that we're flying anyway. So I might just make a few more. Things are very uptight with security here in Utah and Hill Air Force Base, which ironically is not named because it's on a hill. It's named after a guy whose last name was Hill. It just happens to be on a hill. You couldn't travel close to the base easily, and they had tank barriers at the entrances. Yeah. That happens a lot. What? A place being named Hill and being built on a hill? Brooklyn X was in first grade in Manhattan. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I hear stories from time to time from the guys who were here about what it was like and what they did. One of our priests who's in Austin now, he still has the respirator or mask, I guess, just a simple mask that they gave him to wear because he was a police chaplain, I think, and he just went down with them and was anointing bodies and praying over them. Gotta hop to head of your meeting. All right, have a good meeting. Yeah, and if there's anyone, honestly, who spiritually and emotionally could handle that, it's Bruce. But it's a powerful reminder, and he still has the mask, and he'll use it at missions he preaches. Yeah, sorry for making this such a heavy episode, apparently. Okay. So I'm on this level. It is heavy. I feel that feeling of knowing people who went through a traumatic event like that, though on a smaller scale. Yeah. No, and it's, you know, I mean, honestly, talking about it helps us. It's nice to be reminded that we all share. Yeah, no, it is. It's just, but it's also heavy. Worked with a guy who was an investment banker in Manhattan, 30 years old, 9/11. Oof. Joined the army and went into special forces. Got his leg injured. Went to law school. Went to work Worked for him for a bit as a lifeguard. Oh, interesting. It's quite the interesting path he took. Okay, bye. A person who was assistant youth pastor at my old parish was at Columbine. Ooh. Okay, so after this layer, I put stairs on. Since I'm flying, I may as well just get those. Esther is probably one of the most powerful witnesses of faith I've ever seen. I can imagine. Ooh. Oh, Dingo's fetid kidneys. Okay, everything's fine. The OKC bombing, then Columbine. Remember that pretty well? Ooh. I don't remember Columbine too well. I remember hearing a bit about it. We talked about it in school in the sense of, like, talking about safety plans. And people wonder why millennials are doomers. One of your high school teachers had a story where he was in the army, retired career officer, looked up from his desk one day, essay. His secretary looked out the window, shocked expression, plane flew straight into the spot where his office used to be before he got moved so they could renovate the area. Then he was in charge of tracking down and matching scared. Oh my. Oh me, oh my. I need something stronger than water for the rest of this stream. My grandfather was once stationed with Bob Ross. Step Zero has cheered 300 bits. Something stronger. It's getting heavy. I have a solution. Uh-oh. Tempest Fusion, Memento Mori. I mean, this is true. This is true, and it is real and valid. But there's also a healthy amount of that. In medias stat virtus est. No! No, it's the worst of the brew candy. Can I eat the over-fibrous chocolate caramels instead? Is that a worthwhile substitution? No, we must obey the wheel. Dang it! No, Beer Fox, do not. As someone, if you're someone who likes beer, you will not like these candies. This experience is sadness because it tastes like bad coffee and really bad imitation hops. Oh! Like right away as soon as I put it on my tongue, it was like, ha ha! Cheap coffee! Oh, why? How did they get it smoky? That's not right. Everyone here can guess what my stance on beer is. Surprisingly enough, you're a teetotaler. There's a coffee I wish I could get in America, but no, we don't have vending machines capable of serving it.
The French.
And then it's just like sickly sweet. And you know that like cheap candy sweetness where it's almost like almost chalky? Beans, turn the beans over. They're done on this side. That seems like a really inefficient way to roast your beans. Why did you do this to me, Step Zero? And then they get salty. There's a layer of these candies that for no particular reason is just like, aha, surprise salt flavor. Just them by having friends tell stories about them. It's good. That's good. How many more layers do I have to do? 1, 2. We're up to here. 1, 2. Okay, I do need to do one more layer. That's what I thought. I'm going to get some Latin tattooed for my Catholic sleeve. And it's between Tempus Fugit, Sanctus, 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 Dominus Deum Sabaoth, and Sine Deo Nihil Est. Porque no los tres. Weirdly enough, all my ideas for tattoos involve German. Sabaoth is Hebrew, not Latin. Okay, technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. What? Oh, I see. What? I don't have any room for all three on my arm, but could do more elsewhere. Get a larger arm, 5 head. That's the solution. But I don't wanna lift. Weights and stakes. Do you even lift, bro? The answer is clearly no. Okay, look at my noodly arms. Do you think I lift? Noodle arms attack them with linguini. Wait, no! The W in engineering stands for weights. Oh, that's good. That's good. Wrong thing. Meep. Hi there, Meep. You helping us? I bought a Meep Morp. All right, I'm this close to buying my third. I think Junie forgot about my second, but I have... Because I have the one meat more... I want to do another where he's, like, in a chasuble, but if I can, I want it to be, like, dragging... Like, he's walking over it, like it's dragging over his feet. If you're wondering where the W in engineering, here it is. Engineering. Good, those are the same height, so it's up 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 out. Okay. We're not known as spellers. I should say so. Oh, this is the wrong direction. So it actually needs to be facing this way. So that if you're looking at this side of the church, you'll see the cross. Oh, did Gale redeem a father joke? Darn. So sad that we missed it. It will never happen ever again. No. Anyway, yeah, check that out. The tower is done. Only several more to go. Anyway, here's a good father joke for you, Gale. So a cat walks into a bar, and she walks up to the bartender and she says, "I'll have a rum and Coke." And the bartender says, "Why the big pause?" Hello, Bad Roxy. I'm glad you got a nap. Weak? You better check yourself before you wreck yourself, Step Zero. That's a grade A pun right there. With solid delivery. I won't even refund that. See? Gale agrees. Which non-joke? There were several. Holding hands with strangers? Was that the one? Yeah, so that... We're going to clear out some of this. Do monks have fathers? Well, I sure hope so. I don't think they spontaneously generate. No, so how it usually works is in a monastery, everyone takes vows of the same kind. And so they are all brothers or sisters in that sense. And then one of them is elected, usually, to be the abbot, is what it's called. That's abbot, abbey, abbess is the woman's term. And they are the head of the monastery. You can have a separate monastery that's kind of like smaller and underneath the main one. And that's called a priory, and they'll have a prior in charge of them, but the prior answers to the abbot. Many monks are priests, but not all. There's no requirement for it. Usually abbots are expected to be priests, but I don't know if they have to. So that's a good question. Also good to see a visual, Eminem. So I walked into a bar. Ouch. I think not, said the horse and promptly disappeared. Wow, we're just like throwing them all out there, aren't we? What percentage of monks are ordained as priests? Generally depends on the custom and the mission of the monastery and the community. Yep. thought monk and priest were mutually exclusive. No. No, 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 no. Someone needs to celebrate Mass in the monastery. The students in engineering classes are like light bulbs. Why? Because they break easily when you step on them? Really bright but hard to look at. I prefer mine. Oh, it turned to night while I was in there, apparently. Prone to burning out. I didn't actually know that there were non-priest Jesuits until guest speaker at my college, Brother Guy. Brother Guy's awesome! Brother Guy is such a cool guy. And yeah, Jesuits do in fact have brothers in the order. They're not common, but they exist. Just wanted to put that around that pulpit. What's a Jesuit? Other than a common word in conspiracy theories. Well, it's certainly that. A Jesuit is a kind of... Jesuits are an order within the church, founded by St. Francis Xavier and Ignatius of Loyola. They are preachers, so they go out, they do missions, etc. Pope Francis is one. They do a lot. They teach, they preach, they get in the middle of conspiracy theories. Francis of Assisi. Francis of Assisi founded the Franciscans. So, a different order. Another order. What did I want to grab? Isn't a Jesuit running this show right now? No. I'm a Paulist, and my boss is a Paulist. There's no Jesuit running this show. There are several St. Francis, because there's Francis of Assisi, Francis Xavier. Then there are several saints in the Jesuit family who took the name Francis Xavier. So there's St. Francis Xavier so-and-so. There's a great one. A woman, actually, she took the name Francis Xavier as her religious name. So she's Sister Francis Xavier. Is that a woman? No. There is a woman. Francis Xavier Cabrini. She took a Francis Xavier as like a middle religious name, but there's also St. Francis Xavier Zelos. Can priests belong to multiple orders? Not typically. Sometimes it's possible to belong to a second order kind of honorifically, but not like officially. So like I am a Paulist, so if I wanted to join the Jesuits or the Franciscans, I'd have to get permission from my boss saying, hey, can I change orders? I was about to do something and my brain was like, haha, what if we forgot about that? I was gonna chop down more trees because need more stripped birch because we're almost out. You saw some of her relics? Nice. She has a really nice shrine in Colorado. You can't change orders once you've served. What? Yeah, you can. In fact, Apollos wound up changing A former Paulus changed orders twice. He left us to join the Benedictines, then he was like, nah, I need something stricter, so he joined the Carthusians, who are the guys who actually take a vow of silence. Once you're served, once your food arrives, it was a joke. Oh, yeah, no, it didn't track. Saw Francis of Assisi's tomb once. Nice. That is a beautiful church. Honestly, all of Assisi is just really beautiful. Just like staring out of the valley. Is sainthood strictly a Catholic Orthodox thing? Not exactly. I mean, the kind of sainthood that you will experience in talking about Christianity is usually something that only Orthodox and Catholics recognize and practice. Protestants don't do that sort of thing. They might recognize saints from before the Reformation, but that's about it. But other religions do have sort of parallels. So, like, I know in Buddhism there are not saints in like the same way that like you would think about it in Christianity per se, but kind of in that same vein where it's like, oh, this is a person who really embodied the virtues of the faith. And there is a sense of intercession and ongoing relationship. So. But yeah, I mean, even within, like, Christianity, like, you're going to get various answers around... I mean, obviously, all Christians are going to say, yes, there are saints. It's kind of a thing in the Bible. But, like, whether or not we are to recognize and pray with saints, like, that's something that, you know, Protestants would disagree with the Catholic and Orthodox on. Intercession is, like, asking a saint to pray for you. There's an ex-Presbyterian church and another called John Calvin Presbyterian Church. One of my friends is Calvinist minister, so I messaged him. I thought you guys didn't do this thing. Yeah, naming it after someone. I mean, in and of itself, maybe Europe isn't the place where you learn the smallness of your problems, but, you know, a good pilgrimage, which could happen in Europe, can. Europe does have some places that aren't too great. The whole world's like, America has places that aren't too great. But, like, yeah, and there are a lot of empty churches, but it's kind of funny, Beer Fox, because, like, take Rome, for example. There's, like, over 600 churches in Rome. Not all of those are parishes. In fact, the vast majority are not. They were churches that belong to either wealthy families or to a religious community. But, like, you know, you'd have multiple physical churches to a single canonical parish. Now, admittedly, that's a very Rome thing, and it's not necessarily all of Europe, but it is an example of, like, you know, just because we don't see worshiping communities, and I will admit that, yeah, Europe's worshiping communities are on the decline. But, you know, it's just a reminder of, like, wow, sometimes it's even weirder. Do Orthodox and Catholics have the same saints? Or do... so before 1054, which is the year that the Eastern Orthodoxy and Roman Catholic Church separated from each other, any saints from before that, we both recognize. We're both like, awesome, cool. There are a few that are kind of like skirting the edge, but like formally part of it is like the church as an organization, as an entity, is recognizing this saint. And it's kind of awkward to recognize a saint that's not in communion with you. Reforestation! Yeah, I need it because I'm going to need more wood. A really weird example, though, is there is a Georgian saint. I believe, no, not Georgian, Armenian saint who lived after the split, but the Catholic Church still recognizes. What does it mean to not be in community? To not be united, to not be one church. Ultimately, to be in communion is to be able to share in communion, to share in the Eucharist. So that, if you were Orthodox, you came to a Catholic church, you can't necessarily receive, and vice versa. But if we were in full communion, like, we could just go to each other's churches and receive. So, it's that unity both in hierarchy, in spiritual practice, in prayer, and in the lived lives of people around us. That's not right. Oh, I'm gonna need more stairs before I finish this out. Let's go make some stairs. Iconography is so dope. It is. I counted out once. I think I have 9 icons in my office. Plus several more in my bedroom. Why did I try to sleep? That's not what I'm here for. Brain, please. Brain not braining today. Do you have a favorite icon, Brayherd? As you are someone, given your, the fact that you are Orthodox, are probably exposed to even more. Brain do the brain thing. Oh, brain do brain thing hard. Oh, whoops. Like, why did that go down? I used the wrong thing. Bad Roxy has redeemed a father joke. The other day, my Squirrelich has redeemed the point soul. Throw the points into the pit. The pit hungers for them. Good to see a squirrel. So yesterday, I had a nice dinner somewhere, but my jacket must have bumped like the candle or something on the table, and it caught fire. But everything was okay because I was wearing a blazer. Can't think of a favorite icon off the top of your head, but Big Feast, especially the Resurrection. The Resurrection's icon is beautiful and so powerful. The Theotokos. Ah, but which depiction of the Theotokos? Is the Filioque the entire reason for the division? No, that is sometimes historically the thing, but it's more complicated than that, and there is... Uh-oh, pillagers. There are political reasons around the split, because Constantinople was under attack and petitioned Rome for help, and Rome was like, nah, you got this. And there's been other theological things, so like the role over the Pope and his and what does papal primacy mean. So there is more than just the Filioque, and even the Filioque there's actually been some really good dialogue and discussion on between Catholic and Orthodox churches in the last few decades, but when I was playing Chants of Sinar, found a resurrection icon in it that was really interesting, especially since just a few hours earlier I was seeing Christ is risen from the dead. I don't remember seeing that icon. That's a good game, though, Chants of Sinar. What we would call Our Lady of Seven Sorrows. Yeah, Mater Dolorosa. I guess I should have said theological division, but that seems that's not the case. Yeah, I mean there are theological things, but there is also we're human beings, so there are also going to be socio-political realities at play with entities that large in that era. Theotokos of the Seven Swords? I mean, I think if you just walked up to someone and said that, they might get the wrong idea, but... You posted a screenshot of the icon in Religion Spirituality Games when you saw it. Maybe I did see that then. As we've already proven that today, though, brain not braining. Right, because it's when we get to this one spot. Yeah, it just goes up one, then it's into the tower. You like Christ's ascension from Sheol? Yeah, that's the resurrection one. It's good. Yeah, I think I do remember that now, Brayherd. I remember you sharing that on the Discord, and I thought that looks cool. But I clearly did not like log it away. Now the cut sandstone. I want to see how this is looking now with one tower on the side done and oh yeah. Oh yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, one other small thing I want to show off that I added. It's coming together! It is, except that I have all of these stair pieces to put in to smooth out the edges on the inside. So there's a lot more detail to... I'm almost done with the main construction. Then it's detail work. But I did add some torches up here into the dome, because A, it lights it up so you can see it. And B, it's pretty, so I want to see it. First picture that they had in the book, they have in the book for one of the words in the first levels is a hand grabbing a wrist. Yeah. Yeah, I remember commenting on that when I was playing. I think. I'm pretty sure. Because I was like, oh, that reminds me of, like, Jesus pulling Adam from the tomb. It's gorgeous. Thank you. Also, yeah, I built this altar. It's the biggest of the 3 altars. But it fills the space of the apse well. And I like how I designed these columns with, like, the upside down stairs and the central column. So it's both kind of table and altar in one design. Which itself will echo, because this one has the central column made out of stairs. And this one just is 4 pieces of stairs. Also, I made a ton of coal to make this smooth sandstone, and I'm almost out. I'm out of coal. I have like 3 pieces left. Oh, come on. It's almost night. I can see dusk coming. Well, I heard you're a bad kid. What? That's a lie. That's a slanderous lie. I never once received coal in my stocking. Although my dad once did. And he was very excited about it. And my mom loved that she got to put it in there as a pun. But it was coal from the Titanic. My dad is a huge Titanic nerd. Okay, let's build up. I kind of just want to spend the last little bit just building up the bases of the last 2 towers. You can remove the word Titanic from that sentence. No, I can remove the word huge. He's a Titanic nerd in every sense of the word. No! Am I out of smooth sandstone? Oh, consarn it. We all have our things. Squirrelich has redeemed a mod poll. All right, mods, what would you like to have a poll about? What would you like to learn about our wonderful viewers this day? Okay, good. I still have some smooth sandstone. Not a lot, though. I have a circle of asphalt on my bookshelf. It's from an F1 track in Austin. That's cool. Wasn't the Austin track like the first F1 race in America in a long time? Wasn't it like pretty recently? Like in the last decade or so? Pull up. Pull up, bird up. Yep, and now we have 3 American races. Sick. Go, America. Easy pull. There's a correct answer. I don't even see the poll. That's how great Twitch is. Got a warning that one's active. Ah, Twitch. Please don't ever change, except please change in so many ways. You had to reload mobile? Oh. Well, if I try to reload everything, I'm going to reload OBS, and that's not happening. Which is better, Twitch or MTG Arena? Oh, ooh, I mean, I hate to say it, but Arena's gotten a lot more stable. I'm not going to say better. OBS, other better system? Open broadcasting software. Poll is what goes in first, with the answer speed of cereal and milk. Everyone knows Bull is last. Okay, Step Zero woke up and chose Anarchy today. But I'm not in the UK. You can have Anarchy in other places. Gosh. Damn counterfeits. Well, seeing that MTG won't be hackable because it can't handle merfolk numbers of exploration triggers. Oh, I have crashed Arena so many times with... I once had 1,000 triggers on the stack, I think it was. And the game was going through them, and the problem is that like every third one I had to make a choice. And like at a certain point, the game warned me of like, if you don't make a game action, we're going to give you a game loss. And eventually the game just crashed. Because like for every one that went on the stack, it also like added 2 others. It was ridiculous. Yeah, they do limit token generation to 256. I have also learned that through Scoot Swarm. Oh, the crazy things I have gotten up to into Arena, along with my buddy Gale. Magic isn't a game, it's a process to build machines out of cardboard. Technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. Bonus pull for fun. But I will say, you know, for someone who played in the closed beta and is still playing in the closed beta, because that's basically what it is. Uh-oh, I don't drink tea, so I don't know how this works. Well, that depends. What kind of tea are you making? Watching Day 9 do the Scoot Swarm jank before they limited token generation was hilarious. Sees game client desire to alt F4 in real time. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've done that. Can confirm, have been there. Shouldn't be what goes in first be water, so you can make the tea? Or are we just assuming there's a teapot? Okay, I'm out of smooth sandstone. I don't feel like getting more at this point. So we're going to take just one last look. Not in the rain! That is coming together so nicely. Let's get a top-down view. Oh, yeah. Look at that. So there's 4 half towers and 1 whole tower to build, and then we're there on the outside. So next time I'm thinking we might work on the sacristies, kind of decorating them. I think we're going to call it there for the day. Just a little early, but we'll let this poll run out. Actually, while that poll's running out, I'm going to send you on a quick little ad break. I can barely remember how this used to be, but I definitely know those side towers have gotten more built out. Nice, man. Hey, thank you. You redeemed a father joke. Okay, I need a bio break, so I'll be right back. Alright, thanks for that. You don't get the good china, you get the mug. Oh. I'm genuinely impressed with how MTG Arena handles the game. Yeah. It's hard to do infinite combos. Those are usually so much easier in favor because you're like, okay, I've demonstrated the loop. I'll do this 1 million times. Yeah, just because Arena runs on smaller screens like phones doesn't mean it plays well. It's kind of, still kind of rough. Maybe my fault is I played 100-card singleton formats like Gladiator, and the client is not built for that. It hates when you hit the search button. But anyway, Mel, I owe you a father joke. I had a glass of water on my table, but I knocked it over. So I guess now it's a pool table. Timing! Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to let us play. That's a big glass of water. Is that what they call someone a tall drink of water? Oh, me gusta. Me gusta agua. Anyway, thank you so much for everyone for tuning in to let us play. I've been your host, Father Evan. It's been good to be with y'all today. Join us again tomorrow for the Power Rangers Power Hour. Gonna be playing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, the game, on the Super Nintendo Education Network. No, wait. Anyway, no stream on Monday. It's Labor Day. I'm gonna be enjoying the day. I'll be at Lake George this weekend, so that's my plan. But starting next week, streams will start at 3 p.m. I repeat, 3 p.m. So it'll go from 3 to 5, except on Mondays it'll be 3 to 6. But I think that'll actually be better for community and viewership and all that good jazz. So I think that's it. So thank you to everyone who's liked, followed, subscribed, given bits, checked out the YouTube. Check out the YouTube especially because I've been putting, 1500 EDST. But check out the YouTube. I've been putting up YouTube shorts once a week. They've been getting a weird amount of traction, and I'm okay with this. It's making people laugh, so... but yeah, can't think of anything else to say. Brain is turned off, apparently. So I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and I hope to see you tomorrow for the Power Rangers. Next week. Tuesday next week. Hopefully more 5, but I have to figure out if I can actually get past that level, or if it's just glitched permanently. And if we do change, it'll probably be a game called The Forest Quartet, but not necessarily. More midweek Minecraft, of course, and then continuing Power Ranger Power Hour next week with a fun surprise. So why don't we see who's live to raid? Well, only other person I follow that's live is Broseph Lacask, who is a cool dude. He's playing some Shantae, Pirate's Curse, so raid call, be father raids, spam that meat morp if you got him. Go give Broseph Lacask some love, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Take care, and God bless.